Here we go. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me today for Financial First Aid. I'm so excited today to have Mr. Tom Matzen. This guy is phenomenal. He is he's an authority for entrepreneurs. They hire Tom to build 7 and 8 figure enterprises. He helps them by packaging their wisdom and knowledge and build a global movement and has built a global movement in the process. Tom has started some 89 businesses of his own, 8 to 7 figures and beyond. More importantly, his personal coaching clients have generated more than 100 million in sales in dozens of industries. However, he has made more mistakes on his own businesses already than most people make in a lifetime. He has made and lost millions several times over. An international bestseller with 2 books, Tom has shared his message to more than 100,000 entrepreneurs on 4 continents and in hundreds of TV, radio, print, and podcast interviews, and by running global online summits. Most recently, he co-hosted the $1 Million Scholarship Giveaway, where together with 26 other authorities, they gave away 124.5 million in scholarships to business owners across the globe. You know, we're not talking just the US, we're talking the world. This is great. He now leads an emerging global enterprise with a mission to empower 10,000 authority entrepreneurs to build global movements and 7 and 8 figure businesses by December 2024. And as a result, we'll offer a special scholarship today, so stay tuned. Welcome the chief movement maker of Embark $1 Million Authority, Tom Matzen. Thank you, Tom, for being on my podcast today.
Oh, you're so welcome, Vera. Thanks for making time. I always say with a podcast, there's at least 2 people listening at any one moment. So hello to both of you. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're tuning in. Glad that you're here.
So today I wanted to just begin by saying, what's the primary focus of your company?
Well, we have a for-profit and a not-for-profit, as you know. Our for-profit, we help authority entrepreneurs package their wisdom and knowledge, create high-ticket programs that guarantee results for their clients, and then help them impact the world of their tribe in the process. Our nonprofit, Entrepreneur Empowerment Institutes, its mission is to reverse the failure rate of small business across the globe. So COVID has really made our job a little bit harder. Thank you so much, COVID-19. But that's our mission, is to reverse the failure rate of small business across the globe. And we do that through a whole bunch of different initiatives. So 2 different focuses, both combining helping entrepreneurs do good and make money at the same time.
That sounds great. Fantastic. So, first of all, let's find out from you. And I love it because I can talk to the person who has really done this, which is you. What motivated you to begin your journey of entrepreneurship?
Oh, that goes back a few years. My first entrepreneurial venture was a DJ service. So what motivated me was a way to meet girls. Let's be fully transparent. Sometimes you have different motivation, right, Vera?
It's true. Very true.
So that business was all about meeting girls. But my first business post high school, what motivated me was an ability to control my own destiny. At least what I thought was control my own destiny. What I realized was a small business owner doesn't really control their destiny. An entrepreneur does. And it took me probably 10 years before I figured out the difference between the two, frankly. But that was my driving passion. And then as I got to understand it better, I mean, I've sort of been through 3 eras over the last 38 years as an entrepreneur. And that first era really helped me figure out what it was that I wanted to accomplish, why I wanted to play that game, and what I did. So it evolved from there, but that's what got me started for sure.
Mm-hmm. And did you ever have a time when you actually worked a 9 to 5?
Yeah, I was corporately employed for probably, let me think now, it would have been 6-7 years. Most of that time with Dale Carnegie Training. Okay. I started to sell and then instruct with them and loved it, enjoyed it. Then I became a regional director of a shopping center company, a marketing director of a regional shopping center company, I should say. And I love that. That was actually my favorite job of all time. And then I got a job as a Western Canadian sales manager for a mineral bottled water company. And I had taken over from 4 people the boss decided not to fill those roles. So I was doing the job of 4 people.
Wow.
We grew the business by 72% in about 4 months.
That's
And he
impressive.
came to me and said, one of the staff members are complaining because at the start of your staff meetings, you ask what was the best thing that happened to them in the last day. And she feels you're pressuring her to make up stories. Cut it out. And that's when I realized literally in that moment that life as an employee is not my future,
There you
because
go.
72% growth in sales. We had dozens of people and one gal who didn't like to be held accountable for her wins, not just her wins,
Wow.
her wins in the last day. And my boss, rather than realizing the folly of that, didn't want that person complaining. And so I soon after quit, and they replaced me with 3 other people. So much for that win for him. But that was my journey into entrepreneurship, and I haven't looked back since. I realized, I don't suffer fools lightly. And if I worked for a fool, it didn't last very long. I love to learn. I was a keen employee. I worked my butt off. I came early, left late. Someone taught me early on, the first 35 years of your life should all be about learning, and focus on learning. And then the last 35 of your working career, anyhow, focus on earning. And that was pretty much the journey. Although I will admit, some of those years I was trying to earn, but I was learning a lot more than I was earning in the beginning. That's for sure.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. And so was there ever a time when, you became discouraged and said, maybe this entrepreneur thing is not a good fit for me? It doesn't sound like it. It sounds like,
Oh yeah, only days ending in the letter Y. I mean, yeah, as an entrepreneur, it's a journey of managing your ups and downs.
right.
And if you don't know that, then you don't stay an entrepreneur very long. There are the highest highs and the lowest lows as an entrepreneur. And there's just no other way to describe it. The highest highs and the lowest lows.
Mhm.
And so, yep, absolutely. There were lots of times. There were many, many low points along that way. As you said in my bio, made and lost millions, 89 businesses along the way. I probably would put about 25% of those in the win category, and the rest in either neutral or not a win category at all. And so on a broad sense, absolutely, but also on a daily sense.
Uh-huh.
We as we record this in the last week, we've had 4 or 5 major wins and
Mhm.
2 or 3 major setbacks and 2 or 3 minor setbacks. And that's just in the last week.
Mhm.
That's just a normal week as an entrepreneur. So the have I ever felt like I would give up being an entrepreneur? No. Have I ever felt like I would give up the particular venture I was in? All the time. All the time. Yeah. And if you don't feel that way, I don't think you're pushing the envelope.
Mhm.
There was a saying someone once taught me, that if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much oxygen. And as an entrepreneur, that is part of our job. Done right, entrepreneurs are the greatest force for good in the world. They are. And if you think about everything valuable in your life, everything you care about in your life, everything that makes a difference in the world, somewhere an entrepreneur played a role in starting that.
Okay.
Even the nonprofits that we love and adore, many of them, the board members are entrepreneurs,
Right. Right.
helping those nonprofits make their impact in the world. So, but along the way, yeah, there'll be ups and downs. So you got to work through that.
So you said that you said out of the 80 something that you created, you said maybe around 60 of them were not actually what you wanted them to be.
Totally.
And along the way, you've had those disappointments and those losses, and I heard one time, from just a conversation with you, that you had filed bankruptcy. And so what led to that decision to file bankruptcy?
Well, actually, it's happened twice. Once personally, once corporately. The corporate one was beyond my control. It was how I turned 21 million in an IPO in a public company to 10 million debt in 6 easy months. We can talk about that in a bit if you want. And then the personal one was early. I was 24 years old. I was starting my entrepreneurial ventures. I had no idea how to manage my money, manage my time, manage what I was doing. And I got in over my head on debt with a project we had launched with a couple of the guys. And we felt that one of us had to take the hit, and the other two were still full-time Navy, in the Navy, and they had top secret security clearances, and you can't go bankrupt and have a top secret security clearance.
Right.
Apparently, that's one of the. Evidently, you're vulnerable. and so I said, well, listen, I'll take all the debt on. I'll go through the process, and you guys can pay me back on the backside. And they were like, great idea, great idea. And then I went through it. I went, what a stupid idea that was. So yeah, it was early on. You know, it was the actual creditor that put me in was a $400 phone bill. I'll never forget, because, you know, I mean, $400 bills, it should not put someone into bankruptcy unless you're reacting to the process, as you know, because you help people work through this stuff all the time. But I didn't know any better. I didn't have anyone I could talk to. And I was embarrassed to talk to those that could have given me good advice.
Right.
So if anyone tuning in is going through a situation where they're feeling embarrassed about the debt that they've caused, because that's how an entrepreneur looks at it. I caused it.
Right.
And whether that's true or not doesn't matter. That's how we feel.
Right.
Reach out to someone that can help you, especially if someone's been through it.
Right.
Especially if someone's been through it. I now have probably unofficially coached 60 or 70 entrepreneurs, either through bankruptcy or avoiding bankruptcy or raising a bunch of capital so they don't need to go bankrupt, or whatever the case may be, just on the side, just as, you know, friends helping friends.
Right.
Because I think a lot of people have no idea. And nowadays, it's so easy to go into receivership or file for bankruptcy. It's almost too easy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And COVID has only compounded that problem.
Yes.
So, yeah, if you're feeling that, before you take the plunge, talk to someone that's been there.
That's great. That's a lot of the reason why I was motivated to do this podcast, the exact reason, because there's a lot of, you know, people out there, entrepreneurs who really have great ideas. But as you said, at 24, you just didn't know how to manage everything. You didn't know how to juggle it all. So your experience has taught you at this point that you know what to do to tell someone else, hey, you know what? I can help you navigate this thing. So from that 24-year-old Tom Matzen to now, what would you have done differently at that age, maybe to have avoided it? You gave us one age, which was, hey, you know what? I would have talked to somebody.
Yeah. The challenge I have with the what would you have done differently question is that unless you're a fool, you're reacting to the facts you have then. And if you have different set of facts, then of course you're going to react differently. So, you know, the smart person would say, well, I'd have different facts. I'd do a different answer. But the reality is, if you were doing it again, you'd have the same set of facts.
Exactly.
And so with the same set of facts, very rarely would we make the different choices. I guess for me, the big one is realizing that it's a choice.
Okay.
It's a choice to go bankrupt. It's a choice not to.
Mm-hmm.
Also realizing that now, because I've talked to several people through the process, and I know you have too, that it's not the end of the world if you do it, and you're not a loser if you do it. You just lost that particular round, that particular chapter, that particular effort failed to achieve the results. Something that helped me a lot in my later years as an entrepreneur, I saw a quote from Richard Branson, the maverick billionaire, and he was asked what advice he would give brand new entrepreneurs starting out.
Okay, great.
And he said 2 words: fail faster.
Okay, yes.
Fail faster.
Yep.
So, you know, in that context, nothing would have changed because it was a failed venture and I should have failed faster onto the next one. But I didn't need to go bankrupt to do that.
Right.
I didn't understand money and debt and creditors well enough. They had zero leverage. I had zero assets. There was nothing they could do to force me into bankruptcy. I chose that path.
Right.
And so, you know, obviously that part of it now I know would have been different, but you know, the reality is we're all learning as we grow.
Yes.
And so, you know, learn from it, move on to it. I was just early this morning, I was watching an early round of a golf tournament, and there's this young buck, 24 years old, trying to win his first tournament. And it's, you know, it's one of the toughest things in the world to win a PGA tournament. I don't know if people know that, but there's, you know, tens of millions of golfers, and there are less than 2,000 that have ever won a tournament.
Right.
Ever. Like, it's a really, really tough thing to do. And especially your first one, right? Because there's so many pressures on it. Well, they were giving advice, someone that had won tournaments before, which is one of the clues. Learn from your mistakes. Don't see them as failures, see them as opportunities to learn.
There you go.
Well, it's really easy to say that, intellectually, but
Yes.
emotionally, that's true, right? You need to look at that and say, okay, what did I mess up there? How did that not work? Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Look at that. I mean, the signs in that particular venture, the signs were obvious later when I look back, but I never noticed it while I was in it.
Right.
So, the lessons learned, that's why my bio to this day says made and lost millions, because some of the best lessons I've ever made were from those losses. I know that. I remember that. I realize that now, and it empowers me going forward. Because I have a simple theory, Vera, Vera, that you're going to learn the lesson anyhow.
Right.
So the only question is it going to be your mistakes or somebody else's mistakes that you learn from? You're going to learn these core lessons as an entrepreneur.
Yes.
And, frankly, it's a lot cheaper to learn from someone else's mistakes than from your own.
Right. That's great. That's a great scenario that you're given. So I know you're a big promoter of mindset. What would you say to a new entrepreneur or someone who's considering starting their own business, especially right now in this time of
COVID? There's a quote from the 1800s. Baron de Rothschild's was quoted when the market collapsed 70%. 70%. They had public stock markets back then, and the market collapsed 70%. We have never had a collapse like that, and except maybe the Great Depression might have got to that level. So I think it was 40% back then. So this was like the biggest crash in the history of markets at the time.
Right.
And he started to buy everything he could buy.
Okay.
And the quote he was attributed to have said was, "The time to profit is when blood is running in the streets."
Ooh, okay.
Now, I did some research on the quote to find out exactly when it happened, exactly what the story was. And that's not the whole quote. That's the popular version of the quote.
Okay.
But the whole quote is, when blood's running in the streets, comma, especially your own.
Okay.
In other words, when the chaos is there, when the poop is hitting the fan, that's when the opportunities exist.
Okay.
When things are booming, the opportunities are far less. Real estate, right? If you pay top dollar or if you have to overbid, that's a tough market to make money in real estate.
Yes.
But when there's chaos, when there's challenges, you get owner financing, you get better terms, you get more flexibility, you get the ability to fix and flip and make a good margin, right? All these things come into play, but not if you're overpaying or paying top dollar in a boom economy.
Right.
Exactly. So it's when the chaos is around, and this is the opposite for an employee. So for people that are thinking about making the shift, right? You want things to be good when you're an employee. You don't want chaos. You don't want drama because you're part of the drama. Bye-bye. Right? Like that's not a good thing. But as an entrepreneur, that's actually where the great opportunities exist.
Right.
Is when the chaos is there. My 14-year-old son and I have just decided to start a business together. We haven't even announced this yet, Vera. So you're the first person I'm telling it to. I used to build coffee bars. You remember I used to build coffee bars? Okay. Like 187 of them. And I wrote a book on it, 160,000 copies sold. And he's going to help me restart that as a part-time thing on the side. He's going to help me with it. I'm going to teach him the model. Nice. And we're going to do it. And part of the reason we decided to do that is that right now, more coffee bars are in trouble than ever in the history of coffee bars.
Okay.
Coffee bars used to be a license to print money. And then it went through a period where if you did it right, it was a license to print money. And then it went through a period where, just like restaurants, they failed a lot and succeeded a lot. Depends how you did it.
Right.
And then COVID hit.
Okay.
And most coffee bars had to literally shut down.
Right.
And then figuratively shut down.
Right.
And then struggle like crazy. And so part of the reason I'm restarting that consulting area is there's more chaos in that space than ever before.
Okay.
And what we had done, we put in-store roasters in place and a couple other things that totally revolutionized the profit, the fun, the affordability, the impact. Like it was special sauce, and genuinely so, and still is today. And so I looked and I went, oh my gosh, this is a great opportunity. So when I was going through different options for my son and I to partner up and do a part-time business, that was one of the ones I presented him. And he has some great questions, took me through it all. He was like, let's do it. Let's do it. And part of the reason we picked now is because of the chaos that's out there. So chaos is a huge opportunity if you can focus on it. And if you have a way to turn that chaos, what they say, turn lemons into lemonade.
Exactly.
Right? Take that chaos and make it a good thing.
Okay. Great. Yeah. So, I guess I'm kind of getting off a little bit track a little bit, but how would a Starbucks compare to what your idea is?
Well, one of the things that we did was we looked at the marketplace and we said, where can we compete? And we can't compete on corporate brand, but we can compete on making a difference.
Okay.
So our stores roasted fresh in store.
Okay.
And they did only organic coffee. Coffee is the second most heavily sprayed food crop in the world. Not a lot of people know that. But women who buy 70% of all the gourmet beans care more about saving the planet than men do, generally speaking. Not all women, not all men, but generally speaking. And so we would do, something that the industry now calls roaster retailers, where you roast in store. So people will come in, order a pound of beans, we put it in the roaster, they take it home hot, fresh out of the roaster. Well, that is still an extraordinarily rare and unique thing, and it certainly doesn't happen in any of the big chains. Then the second part, the way that I coach people is they would set up their own local roaster.
Okay.
Right? So you live where again? Is it Maryland?
I'm in New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay. So what's the small town that you're in or the city you're in?
The little town I'm in is called Pine Hill, New Jersey.
Pie Hill?
Pine.
Pine Hill. Perfect. So if you were doing a coffee bar with me, I would encourage you to do it as Pine Hill Coffee Roasting Company.
Okay.
So that you're taking advantage of the local, because you are local.
Right.
And now you have an advantage over the big chains.
Okay.
Right. And in fact, when we first started doing this, our favorite headline was, because Starbucks was super trendy at the time. I lived, as you know, near Vancouver, the most Starbucks city in the world. People think it's Seattle. It's not. It's Vancouver. Trust me. There's one street called Robson where at one point there were 12 Starbucks on one stretch of Robson alone. So easily the most Starbucks city per capita in the world at the time. I don't know if it is today, but it certainly was for years. And our headline when we did our marketing flyers was "Buck the Trend."
Okay.
And we used Starbucks green. Starbucks green in the ink on the headline. So it was real obvious who we were marketing up against. And so we were selling local, fresh, organic, your neighbor.
Okay.
Well, they can't compete on that.
Okay.
Right? They can't compete on that. So when you're an entrepreneur, you have to look at what can you compete on and what can't you compete on.
Right.
Right? For example, price. Can you compete on price with Walmart or Amazon? Not bloody likely.
Yes.
And even if you could, as soon as you start making any real money, someone will come along and undercut you. So you don't even want to compete on price, even if you could. Right. And most of us couldn't if we tried.
Right.
So what can you compete on? And in every industry, in every niche, there are things you can offer. So, as you know, our primary business is helping people create high ticket programs.
Yes.
Where they package the wisdom and knowledge and sell it. Well, lots of people do that. What makes us special? Our programs guarantee results for the clients. They guarantee results for the clients. And so if someone starts down with us, they don't pay all the money to us. They pay some money so that they have skin in the game. And then the rest is linked to results. So we have zero people that pay us a lot of money and don't get results.
Right.
We do have people that pay us the first money and don't get anywhere, don't pay us anymore, but they don't pay us anymore. And we teach them to do the same thing in their business with their clients. And so that was one of the things we knew, that if we built enough skills, accountability, and mentorship into our programs and into our clients' programs, we could do that. Right. Since you and I last talked at length, we've also looked at how do we guarantee our clients succeed. Okay. We've added a whole nother layer of accountability and duplication to our process. And we've created a marketing fund to help our clients succeed at the same time, because that guarantees our clients succeed. So there's a lot of things you can do as an entrepreneur if you get above your business and start working on it as opposed to in it all the time, which is what most of us do, right? We're busy doing it.
Exactly.
Instead, get up above and look around and say, okay, where's the strategic weaknesses? Where's the strategic areas of opportunity? And what can you do to solve it?
Hmm.
And you're not going to have all the answers, but you're not supposed to.
Right.
That's the other thing I think a lot of entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs get really scared about. I don't have all the answers. You're not supposed to. Right? Do you think the orchestra leader for a symphony orchestra plays every instrument as well as
Exactly.
the people in the orchestra? Not a chance.
Right.
Usually they'll play one or two really well, but that's about it at
Mhm.
world-class level.
Right.
And yet they're the orchestra leader. Why is that?
Right.
The general contractor on a home project. Do you think
Right.
they could mud, drywall, or pull wire, or do the plumbing or HVAC as well as any of the trades?
Right.
Yeah, some of them could do some of those trades,
Exactly.
but most are not proficient at every single one of those. And even if they are, they'd make a lousy general contractor
This
because
is
they're busy doing it all the time instead of having their trades do it.
exactly.
Right? Oh, I could do that. I'll just save me a few dollars. No, you're slowing the project down by mudding the damn thing yourself. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. So is that one of the things that, as a person who's, been an entrepreneur over years of time, have you found that learning how to develop and grow a team is something that's integral to your own success as an entrepreneur?
No, because I don't think that's one of my super skills. I
Mhm.
think empowering chief operations officers to do that.
Okay,
Yes.
great.
But for me, that's not one of my super skills. And so I've done it. I've done it many times. I've hired over 1,000 people over the years. But it's not one of my superpowers. It's not one of the things I'm really, really good at. So instead, my approach has been to find people and either partner or hire people who are good at that.
Okay. So as an entrepreneur who's starting out, where do you, well, the first thing as an entrepreneur is you kind of need to learn what your strengths and weaknesses are. So that was one of your weaknesses, and obviously you found that out. So how do you find those different people to fill different spots for you where it's a weakness for you? Like you know how to sail the ship, but you don't know how to maybe pick, how to hire the people. So what do you do, or how do you tell an entrepreneur, hey, listen, if you know this is something you can't do, why don't you find somebody else that can do it for
Mm. Yeah. So I love the question. And it's the question is part of the problem. What you actually want to do
you?
is pre-plan the company you want to build and
Great.
all the roles you will need to have first.
Okay.
So develop your organizational chart of your fully built company. And if
Great.
you don't know how to do that, get some people around, some advisors who can help you flush that out. And maybe you come up with, like in our case, it's 23 people currently is our fully developed company,
Mhm.
23 total roles.
Okay.
Then you figure out what are the income producing roles and you
Okay.
start there.
Hmm.
This is where a lot of people make the mistake is they start with, oh, well, I shouldn't be doing that. I shouldn't be doing that. I shouldn't be doing that. And fill the I shouldn't be doing that roles first.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's okay if you got a lot of cash flow. But if
Right.
you don't have a lot of cash flow, and most early stage businesses don't have a lot of free cash flow,
Right.
you're going to be spending more, but not earning more.
Uh-huh.
And in the consulting world, it's a classic example. Making 100,000 a year, you have a pretty good lifestyle. Making 200,000 a year, your lifestyle is worse than making 100,000 for most people, because you add a whole bunch of other people on your team in order to keep up with the growing sales, and your margin, your profit goes way down.
Right.
Your profit goes way down. And so what you want to do is actually back up and come up with the whole organizational chart, all of the roles, who needs to do what, where in each of those areas, and then start identifying it. And there's something we teach in our master classes all the time. Just because you can't afford to hire someone for a given role doesn't mean you should be the one doing it.
Great.
Right?
Great.
That's the next step, is to figure out, well, who could I get? And the phrase that we've been using for the last year comes from a new Dan Sullivan book. And the phrase is who, not how.
Mm-hmm.
Who, not how. Not how do you do it, but who should you bring in to do it?
Okay.
Who can you find to do it?
Mm-hmm.
Because again, as an entrepreneur, that's where leverage comes from. As a small business owner, that's where you get stuck because you're doing it all yourself. And frankly, you're not good at it.
Right.
You're not good at it. One of our clients helps digital marketing agencies grow and scale their practices.
Mm-hmm.
And he's decided to add a podcast to part of how he does it. And so he was starting to plan all these different elements. And I go, what are you doing? Well, I got to figure out how to do all this stuff. I said, no, you don't. Who, not how? Who, not how? I gave him one name. He made one phone call. He's outsourced his entire podcast production business to this amazing guy that we know that does that for a living.
Yes. Yes.
And now he focuses on marketing and innovation, which is his job as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And all of that will be outsourced to a company that takes care of it like that.
Exactly.
Right. Rather than trying to figure out a brand new area of fulfillment and all the stuff that goes with that. Does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense. So, as you know, the focus of my podcast is to educate, motivate, and inspire entrepreneurs and wannabe entrepreneurs. And so I like to leave my listeners with 3 takeaways from each of the podcasts. Something to educate, something to motivate, and something to inspire. So your first thing for educate, what would you say?
I would suggest that if an entrepreneur is serious about building a real business, that they figure out what game they want to play. And the best way to do that is to get what I would call an advisory board.
Okay.
And so that involves getting people the best you can find to help coach you or advise you so that you know what sort of game you're going to play. Unfortunately, there aren't a lot of good books on early stage entrepreneurs finding advisors.
Mm-hmm.
So instead, reach out to the most successful entrepreneurs you know personally,
mm-hmm.
and just ask them, hey, I'm building my business. Would it be okay if I called you from time to time to pick your brain and maybe buy you a coffee once we're allowed to meet face to face again? Would it be okay? And you will be absolutely amazed how many entrepreneurs say absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. For example, how much am I getting paid for this podcast, Vera? Not a dime if people don't know that.
Right.
Right. But I'm happy to do that. What's my private coaching rate? $2,500 an hour. I'm not charging Vera $2,500 for my hour of chatting with her. Why? Because I'm supporting her in her mission. She asked for help as she rolls out her podcast. I'm happy to help. I've certainly got the ability to help. And so it's one of the ways that I give back.
Mm-hmm.
But Vera had to ask me.
Yes.
I didn't go track her down and say, hey, gal, how you doing? I haven't talked to you in a while. Let's do a podcast interview. Like, no, I didn't track you down for that. You had to ask.
Yes.
So the educational side is educate yourself on how to ask for help from entrepreneurs that have been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Make sense?
And you are one of the best. How about motivate?
Motivate. So motivate actually leads to inspire, because to me, motivation comes from within, and that's the inspire part. So the motivate is the external part. And so what I would recommend on that part is either podcasts or seminars, workshops, master classes, or courses or programs from someone in an area of marketing, sales, or innovation.
Great.
Because as an entrepreneur, we really have 2 jobs: to grow our business and to innovate and improve our business.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else should be our team.
Right.
And people say, well, I'm not really good at that. Well, then get good at that. And the best way is to study the amazing people out there. Now, the good news with the internet, those amazing people are all over the place.
Right.
Free. All over the place, free all the time. And so you don't have to spend a lot of money. I spent hundreds of thousands. When I first started learning that, I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. I forced myself to spend money to grow. And I still spend money to grow and improve. I just don't need to spend that much anymore. I spend probably 6 figures a year, and I don't need to anymore. But why? Because I'm in a lot of high-end masterminds.
Okay.
And so there's that my not only growing and motivating myself, but I'm also learning and helping others. And, part of my give back strategy involves that. So for you, figure out which area is it that you want to be more motivated in.
Mm-hmm.
Is it sales? Is it marketing? And I distinguish that by lead generation, lead conversion. I don't call marketing marketing. I call it lead generation. And the reason is most entrepreneurs are kind of mixed up when it comes to the subject. Your job is to take a stranger, get them to raise their hand to learn more. They become a prospect. That's lead generation.
Mm-hmm.
Lead conversion is to take the prospects and screen and qualify them and award them into your process if it's appropriate, if it's a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't call that sales. I call that lead conversion. And the reason I distinguish those names is I learned a long time ago, entrepreneurs get confused as to what's what.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really about those two
Okay.
things. So either get better at lead generation, better at lead conversion, or get better at innovation, which is creating new things.
Mm-hmm.
Creating new things. Those are the three skills that most entrepreneurs, they're what we call force multipliers. There's a coaster we give out all of our clients. It sits on my desk here. Let's see if I can turn this for the camera.
I got it.
You see it?
Yeah, it's easier to 10x your business than 2x your business.
It's easier to 10x than 2x.
Okay.
And that's because it literally is. The strategies to grow your business tenfold are easier to do than to double. Double takes a lot of push, a lot of effort.
Okay.
But to 10x, you can't do the same. It's like take real estate investment, right? If you're buying single properties and fixing and flipping them, to do 10 times the volume, you can't do that strategy. Right? You have to think bigger. Maybe you buy a 34-unit apartment building and fix and flip it.
Right. Exactly.
Well, guess what? Are you the general on that project?
No.
Not a chance.
Not at all.
Right? Not a chance. But are you the general on a single property fix and flip? Most of the time.
Most of the time, right.
Because there's not enough margin to hire a full general on most of the fix and flips, right? Now, if someone gets into it full time, different story. But if they're just doing it part time, they can't possibly, or at least they think they can't.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't. So they micromanage it themselves, right? Which is kind of sad because they're the least qualified person oftentimes, and they're in charge of the process. Well, no wonder people call it gambling, right?
Yeah.
Like if I went to a blackjack table, I understand blackjack, but I know nothing about it. If I was to coach you how to play blackjack, the odds are you'd lose money.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because I don't know what's going on, right? So, that's a big part of the motivation path. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So, in closing, I know there's some things that
hang on. Inspiration. We can't leave them hanging. We got to do inspiration.
I'm sorry. That's right.
That's right. All right.
Well, you said
inspiration is from within. And
yeah.
So for that, my advice is if you're grounded, you can take on the world. But what happens is all kinds of crap happens and we get thrown off our game.
Right.
And so you, as entrepreneurs, it's even more important to know how to get back to being grounded, how to get back to being in your zone, whatever you want to call it. You want to learn how to get back. And so the absolute number one way for inspiration is to figure out what grounds you and then do it on a regular basis.
Okay.
Do it on a regular basis. I live on a small island outside of Vancouver. Walking outside in nature, getting to the ocean and seeing the ocean. Those are two things that ground me instantly. In fact, I will literally jump in my car. If I've got a short gap, I'll drive down to the water in the harbor. I'll roll out my window. I'll smell the ocean and look at the ocean and the mountains and come right back. 30 seconds later, boom, I'm in my zone.
Okay.
You think, well, why are you doing that? Because that's where I want to operate. When I'm in that zone, right. I'm a good guy. I'm funny. I have fun. I'm creative. I'm supportive. I'm not judgmental, blah, 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 blah. When I'm not, I'm a pain in the butt. I'm a pain in the butt to hang around. And we all are, right? We all are, Vera. When we're not on our game, we're not a pleasant version of ourselves.
This is true.
Right? As my first wife said, often wrong, but never in doubt.
Great.
Well, that's what you don't want to be. So you need to find what your inspiration is, what gets you grounded. For some people, that's meditation. For some people, that's exercise. For some people, that's nature. For some people, that's cooking, right? For some people, it's a glass of wine. Whatever it is, like find out what it does for you. And by the way, have several strategies.
Right.
Because sometimes the other strategies aren't readily accessible. Sometimes they stop working. Right. So that's my final part of your triad.
Thank you so much for reminding me not to forget inspiration. That is so important when you're an entrepreneur. One other thing, I noticed you said consistently, you distinguished between a business owner and an entrepreneur. How do you explain that distinction, please?
Yeah, it's probably the single most valuable thing I learned over the 89 businesses. Small business owners, this is the term I used, or entrepreneur. A small business owner is in their business. An entrepreneur is on their business. A small business owner is trying to solve it by saying, how do I do it? an entrepreneur is trying to solve it by saying, who should I get?
Okay.
An entrepreneur focuses on impact, influence, and income.
Great.
Impact, influence, and income. And a small business owner focuses on staying alive, get enough cash to pay the bills. So it can you shift from one to the other? Absolutely. Can you do it on your own? Not very easily.
Right.
Not very easily. It's super difficult. Like, why do the best athletes in the world have coaches?
Right.
And more importantly, are the coaches as good as the athletes in that sport? Never.
Right.
Never, ever, ever. Right? Never, ever, ever. In fact, the great athletes make lousy coaches. It's the ones that had to struggle to overcome it, to figure out how to be great despite their weaknesses, that make incredible coaches. If you look at that historically, they're the best coaches. Well, the same thing for us as entrepreneurs. We're trying to figure out how to do this on our own. It's the biggest single mistake most small business owners make. Every entrepreneur I make has coaches. Sometimes they're called board members. Sometimes they're called advisory boards. Sometimes they're called mastermind members. Sometimes they're called coaches. Sometimes they're called consultants. There's lots of labels, but every successful entrepreneur I know has multiple coaches. And most small business owners who struggle don't.
Okay.
There's a correlation. There's a correlation.
Great distinction. So now, wrapping this up, how can people get in touch with you? And you told me that you have a special offer for the people who are listening today.
Yeah, absolutely. The best way to reach me, by the way, is just go on LinkedIn and look up Matzen, 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 depending what part of the world you're tuning in from. I'm bilingual. I speak Canadian and American. We all have our gifts. Vera, right? But if you Google my name in LinkedIn, there's only a handful of Matzens. You'll see me right there, and connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to do that. And there's links to all sorts of free trainings and other elements that can help you with your business. Primarily, what we've been doing this year, and we started this last year and it went so well that we've expanded it multiple fold this year, is we're giving away our top program that we used to sell for $15,000. It's now valued at $10,000, and we give it away as a scholarship. It's called the Game Changer Program Academy. And in it, we teach an entrepreneur to package their wisdom and knowledge, create a high-ticket program, blueprint it, validate it, and sell it within 4 months.
Wow.
And you can only get it for free now through a scholarship offer, through something like this. I'll make sure that, Vera, you have the link so you can put it in the show notes so that people can sign up and go do it. Right now, about 81% of the people that apply are accepted. Our goal this year is $100 million in scholarships.
Wow.
So lots and lots of people can do it. We encourage people to do it. It comes with not only the training, but 15 group coaching calls a month, templates, systems. It's expanded massively since you saw it back in the day, Vera, because we realized we have to put just as much effort into our scholarship program as we do our paid programs. And so we've added a whole bunch of elements to increase the odds of success. And we love it. We're super proud of it. And it also allows someone that's what we lovingly call wantrepreneur, somebody that wants to be an entrepreneur, but they're not yet, to dabble, create a high ticket program, make enough money part-time to easily replace their corporate income, and then pull the plug.
Okay.
And so it's a super smart strategy for someone that's in that audience. So if someone happens to fit that, definitely check us out and we'll be happy to take a look at you.
I love that. That's great, Tom. And thank you so much again for taking your time out to be on my show. And I think you might hit that number you're looking for by 2024. What was that number again?
10,000 7 and 8 figure entrepreneurs. Yeah, we've got a lot of work left to pull it off, but we have the tools, the systems, and the team to do that now. So we're super excited.
That's great. Thank you. I hope to be in touch with you again real soon. And it's just been a pleasure. It's always a pleasure talking to you. You bring such energy. You bring such enthusiasm. You can't beat it. And the knowledge is just unstoppable. So, well,
I appreciate that as well, Vera. And thanks for the work you do helping people take their financial challenges and turn it into a financial future they can love and believe in. So appreciate all the work you're doing.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. One of these days, I'm going to grow up and be just like you.
You know where to find me.
Thank you so much. Take good
Bye-bye.
care.